Here on Podcasting Tech, we're always looking at companies, solutions, software, things that can help the podcaster, help them be more successful, help them grow their show, and grow their show in ways that maybe they hadn't even thought of. With that in mind, we are delighted to be chatting with Pat Cheung. He's the founder of Fanlist, formerly PodInbox. Pat, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I remember first learning about PodInbox. You were a company at, I believe, PodFest or maybe Podcast Movement, and you were doing this giveaway that basically, buy one-time lifetime plan. And the whole idea was it was this little widget that podcasters could use, put on their website, and fans could record audio messages that then the podcasters could use on their show. But you've evolved tremendously since then. So kind of take us through just a little bit about the beginning and where you're kind of heading these days.
Sure. Wow. If you remember the lifetime plan, so you were one of the early,
Oh, yes, I was.
Yeah. So we launched at Podcast Movement about, I think, over 3 years ago now. And we launched with the lifetime plan. We came out with a really simple idea, which is we saw this need that podcasters had, which is to receive audio messages from fans. So we looked across a lot of prolific podcasters, and we found that a lot of them had this segment on their show where they feature a fan message. So we kind of looked at, how are they getting that fan message? Because it wasn't too straightforward with some of the podcasts that I follow. I'm like, we heard a lot of podcasters say, email us, your message, which we thought, that's kind of cumbersome. At that time, I probably wouldn't even know how to kind of record something on my phone and kind of email it to them. Right. So we thought, let's build a better solution for that. Yeah. So that's what we set out to do. And we created that. It was pretty full featured actually by the time we launched, and sold a lot of one-time deals.
I think I remember actually communicating with you and saying that I thought you should have the ability to, I think it originally had to be on the PodInbox website, but I said, what if we can embed this on our website? And I believe you responded pretty quickly saying, yes, we'll work on that. And it was like a few days later, you guys had it up and running. So you are very responsive to the folks and to the fans who are out there. So how did it start to evolve? Where did it go from there?
Sure. That's a great question. And maybe I'll kind of address what you said about the widget. Actually, we're not actually big fans of the widget. So we do have a widget because people are asking for it. But I think what people want to do is drive people to their website, which is understandable. Your website's your brand. But, I've been a UX designer, a user experience designer for over 15 years. And what personally branded websites don't do well is a lot of times they're kind of confusing for users, just to be totally frank, right? They talk a lot about themselves. They have content, that people want to engage in. So there's just a lot going on. And when you jump to sort of personal website to personal website as a fan, you don't really it takes some time for that person to digest what's going on that website and to really understand it, right? So the reason why I'm not a big fan of that widget that we built is the widget is usually a very direct call to action, right? So if you want someone to, take an action on your website, your personal branded website is oftentimes not the best place to do it because there's just a lot to sort of understand, and a lot of people nowadays, and even back then when I first started being a UX designer, they just don't have the attention span to kind of go through everything. So we really, to answer your question, how we evolved is we really put a lot more energy into the fan page. So the fan page is built so that it's just super intuitive and super simple. So when you're a fan going to a podcaster's fan page or a creator's fan page, it's very obvious what what the creator wants that fan to do. And messages is a big part of it. That said, we updated the widget too. The widget's super powerful. It's probably the best widget on the market. But when we really, I do a lot of demos still for the product. And whenever I sort of coach or train podcasters, I'm like, use the widget. You might see some conversion of fans taking an action. But if you really want to take an action, just link to the fan page. That's where they could take, not only one action, but many more actions, which also, to answer your question, how do we evolve? We developed a lot more features that we can't just fit on a widget. And those features around monetization, right? We kind of asked ourselves, how else can a fan engage other than leaving audio messages and text messages? Well, we thought, a lot of fans want to, support the show. They want to donate. They want to buy stuff. They want to subscribe. Yeah, so things like that. Yeah, not to sell it too much, but yeah, that's how we evolved.
No, I mean, that's exactly what we should be doing, is selling it so that folks can check it out and see if it's right for them. So just to, summarize for folks, some of the core product features of Fanlist now, again, you still have the ability to message folks. You do lead capture. You can do memberships, private subscriptions, tips and donations, paid perks, chat rooms, widgets, and a leaderboard, which I love the gamification of podcasting. That's always a nice way to drive interest. People always like to win the game. What are you finding is the most used feature with podcasters today that are using Fanlist?
Yeah, good question. I think it's still the audio messaging feature. I think it's probably because that's what we launched with, and that's what people known us for a long time. So, which is maybe kind of a lead into, we went through a branding change. When we first launched, we were called PodInbox. We wanted to give an inbox for podcasters, like this audio inbox, hence the name. But after we, created this whole suite of features, we're like, is the inbox still the most important thing? We're like, actually, no, probably not. As much as that's probably the most used feature, we kind of see it as the lead funnel now, right? So let's say you're a podcaster and you're like, I really want my fans to engage. I really want to build my newsletter email list, right? That's kind of what they teach all of us, to try to build that email list that you could own that fan, right? Versus kind of borrowing it from social media platforms. So we're like, well, yeah. Well, that's how we kind of changed the name too. We're like, well, our platform is really to help creators and podcasters build their fan list, to build their email list. So we're like, Fanlist is a pretty good name. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, to answer your question, the most used feature is the inbox, and we think that's a great first feature to use, right? Because if you're a podcaster wanting to build your email list, oftentimes they kind of teach us to, have that lead gen, that kind of free giveaway. And like, what better free giveaway for a podcaster than to, tell your fans, hey, you could leave a message here. I'll listen to it. I'll reply to it. And we might even feature it on the show. Right. So as they kind of dive into your fan page and they say, oh, not only can I leave a message, I could do all these other things too. So yeah, we kind of like that the inbox is like the first touch for any fan.
And then you also have, like you said, once you get people to maybe leave a message, down you're doing email capture, then you can sell them on the memberships, the donations, the private subscriptions. Are you finding that a lot of shows are seeing success with those features? I think many small podcasters worry that, or find sometimes even that, just because they create these paid features doesn't mean anybody's actually joining them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to set expectations. Like one of the things we teach a lot is sort of kind of a common rule of the internet is like about 5 to 10%. Actually, to be quite honest, it's usually anywhere from 1 to 10% of your audience will take an action, will participate. So it might not be a lot. So if you have 100 listeners to your podcast, which is pretty common, maybe only 1 to 10 people will actually take an action, might give a tip or might subscribe. But, I think if you do a good job, it might trend more towards the 10%, which is pretty good, right? We all often do the calculation of like, when, a lot of podcasters, they are interested in monetizing, it takes a lot of effort to put together a podcast, as and getting rewarded for it is, it feels good. So a lot of times we do the calculation, between like fan monetization and versus sponsorships, which is another common way to earn money, of course. And a lot of times, yeah, fan monetization kind of wins out in terms of just looking at the numbers of, how successful it could be.
And of course, it's important that if you're a podcaster hearing this, that you can't just say, oh, now you can pay for our show. You have to deliver value in exchange. People aren't just going to give you money just because you asked for it, but they will give you money if you provide value for what it is you are asking them for. For $5, you better be giving them better content, or, more episodes that are fulfill the mission of what it is you told folks to check out when they came to your show in the first place. What about the leaderboard? How does that one work?
Leaderboard is just basically in design what we call a face pile, right? It's pretty light. It's a pretty light touch, and it's just a way to give a little recognition to the fans. Like, we looked across a lot of the other creator economy platforms, and they don't really sort of pay back the fan, and we're really about that payback. A lot like what you said. I mean, I could go on for hours about giving value and value for value. I'm a huge believer in that, and hopefully even I think you mentioned subscription. Even without a paid podcast, hopefully your free podcast is giving value. That's why your fan might want to come engage with you. That's why if they engage with you, they might want to tip you, right? It's always about value.
So as you mentioned, as we're talking about, value being important, do you track, or do you have a sense of what are some of the best add-ons, or what are some of the best like perks that podcasters are giving away, or perks that podcasters are finding are most effective for growing an audience?
I'm sorry, explain that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
Well, so like if I go to the demo page and I look at buy a perk, you've got 3 books on fan engagement for $3, episode shout out for 10, private Zoom call. Like, do you kind of take a look and track at what people are using those perks for? And if so, any that are standout successes?
Not really. We have some of our favorites, but there's such a diverse group of different creators and podcasters using our perks feature. And just to give the audience some indication what a perks feature is, it's basically an online shop that you could create very easy and offer fans to buy stuff, right? Usually they're digital goods, things like digital downloads, and some of the things you mentioned, like shout outs and stuff. I think, the things that we teach a lot are, maybe stems from a lot of podcasters we talk to, and we talk to a ton of them, that they're usually afraid to start selling something because it's hard to create stuff to sell. So we like to, think about stuff that's easy for a podcaster to sell. So like episode shout outs, right? We all do podcasts. So
doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah, it doesn't cost you anything. And if you say, hey, buy this episode shout out perk on our fan page, and we'll give you a shout out, then you could just start giving shout outs on your podcast. So our favorites are the things that are easy and kind of free. Another good example, it's not free, but like a lot of times people just want to meet you for a Zoom call. We kind of call that like a higher ticket item, right? So let's say I'm a fan of your podcast, Matthew, and I'm like, oh, I really, Matthew seems like, an expert in his industry. I would love to just get like a 30-minute Zoom call with them. Well, how are you going to sell that Zoom call, right? It's hard. You have to kind of, either create a Shopify store or choose one of these types of platforms, or you could just create that perk on your fan page. So Zoom calls are great. And you could charge, it's hard to say what to charge for it. But we've seen people charge $200 for a 30-minute Zoom call because they're they're a prolific podcaster. So those are kind of our favorites, because sort of anyone across the board could do that, whether you're like a true crime podcast or you're selling financial advice, whatever it is, it's pretty relevant.
Yeah, that's I like that idea of selling the Zoom calls and the consultations. We might have to think about that and think about implementing that here on the Podcasting Tech Show. And one thing that we should let everybody know is that the pricing of your products, right? This is a lot of times in podcasting, we have all these different things that we've got to do. And now you got to buy this software, subscribe to this thing. You guys have a totally different approach to this.
What do you mean by totally different approach? Because recently we did a lot of changes. So we changed our name from PodInbox to Fanlist. And we changed our business model too. So depending on what you remember, so for the longest time, we were a paid service. in the industry what's called SaaS, right?
Right. This is what I want to get to, because on your site you say the service is basically free.
As of early this year, 2024, we changed to a totally free model. So we used to have a pro plan where you had to pay, about $10 a month to get all the pro features. We thought, you know what, we just hated the idea of like paywalling or feature gating, our best features for the paid plan. So we're like, well, what if we just gave it away for free? So that's what we decided to do. And the only way we make money is just based off of transaction fees. So, let's say, you never use our monetization features. You only use our inbox. Well, you get all the benefits of all the pro inbox features now for free.
That's amazing. So yeah, you should definitely check out fanlist.com. We'll have a link to it obviously here in the show notes, and take a spin around. They've got a demo on there. They list all the features. So you can kind of see how it works. It integrates with some of the other services that we've talked about, including PodPage. So it's not like you have to give up something else to use it. And again, costs you nothing to check out. So Pat, before we let you go, we have a few questions that we're asking everybody here on the show. I know obviously you're working on this piece of fan engagement, but is there another place inside podcasting that you'd like to see improvement? Is there, service or changes or something that you think would help the podcasting world?
That's a tough one. I mean, yeah, my mind is mainly on fan engagement. I've been kind of working in and around this industry for like 10 years. So I think about that, day and night. That's something I think about day and night. But we has a lot of podcast technology is thinking about, AI has come into the, conversation quite a bit. And we even think about it a lot. Even in the early days of OpenAI, we implemented an OpenAI technology not a lot of people know about. It's called Whisper. So we use Whisper to do our transcriptions. So, by using AI, we're allowed to, we're able to offer transcriptions for free. Whereas before, when we were thinking of doing that feature, we're like, oh, should we charge a little bit more for transcriptions? And the way we use transcriptions are, if someone leaves you an audio message, a lot of times, for some of our high end or high volume users, it's hard for them to listen to every single message, right? So somewhere in the lifetime of our product, we thought, we really could use transcriptions. So because when someone leaves a message, we email the creator, that they received a message. So if we could put the transcription in there, they might not even need to listen to the message if they didn't want. So conveniences like that, we thought, AI has been super helpful already. They offer this free service, a free transcription service that we could build on. But yeah, as AI grows, yeah, I don't know if I could share yet, but like there's some of these really interesting features that we're thinking of creating that leverages AI and kind of in this fan engagement type of realm. So once again, it's under the guise of fan engagement. It's something that we're thinking of bolting on to Fanlist. And it's something, unfortunately, I can't share too much of yet, but it's super exciting. And I think that's where the industry, when I think of some of the next technologies that's going to rise, like we have like things like show notes already, obviously, that are some cool companies and technologies around that just makes our life a little bit easier. But, when I think about it, it's like, how can we use AI to make podcasting a little bit more interesting? Not just to maybe solve like a productivity problem that we see a lot of AI companies doing, but to solve an entertainment problem, maybe. So yeah, that's what I'll tease out right now.
All right, and maybe once you release it, we'll have you back on so we can talk about the new features that you're rolling out here for Fanlist. I noticed that you're using a Shure MV7 as your microphone. I'm curious, what are you using for your camera and anything else for recording?
Oh, my camera, I'm using a Sony A7 II mirrorless. Right now it's fuzzy because I don't know why. I think I just turned it on before this call and I forgot to focus it. Yeah, it's a mirrorless camera. It's got a pretty nice lens. It's a f4 16 millimeter lens.
Oh, it is a nice picture, and actually somebody else we just had on the show was using the exact same camera, so obviously very popular. Is there any technology on your wish list? Is there anything out there, either that exists that you want to get your hands on, or something that you want created that would improve your podcast operation?
Yeah, something I'm about to go run out to buy today. Maybe I'm saying it because you asked me about my camera, but I'm thinking of dabbling with a new camera with a new mic setup that's a little bit more on the go, run and gun type thing. I do a lot of traveling. I love traveling. Do a lot for professional life and personal life. So I like small rigs, right? I'm kind of like a big EDC geek, everyday carry type guy. What can you throw in your bag, and how can you be like a road warrior type person? So the setup I'm looking at is the DJI Pocket camera. I think it's called the DJI Pocket 3. It's their third version of their pocket camera. And I could talk about that a little bit, but it's a cool piece of gear because it also comes with a wireless mic. So I think this piece of gear is kind of changing the landscape for a lot of vloggers, but I think it's going to be big in podcasting too, because it's a camera that's going to be way better than the camera that's on your computer, which I'm all about. But like, to haul my rig around, if I were to show you a picture of my setup, it's too much. It's insane. You can't throw this in a backpack.
So that was the DJI Pocket 2?
Yeah. And what's incredible about it is it comes with this wireless mic that even the mic is awesome, because if you buy the mic package, it's the DJI wireless microphone package. And that's a cool package in itself if you need like multi-mic. But for, the types of podcasts that I do, interviews, and even being a podcast guest, that's, I could probably leave all this stuff at home and just bring the pocket camera, and that comes with the wireless mic, and just use that as a podcast setup.
I'm not sure how new it is, but there also looks like there's a Pocket 3 available. Obviously, it's a little bit more money.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Oh, the Pocket 3.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. The Pocket 3. Yeah, I would not recommend the Pocket 2 or the Pocket 1. I kind of dabbled in those a little bit, but with the Pocket 3, that's really the game changer. And I think it came out.
Yeah,
I want to say like 6 months ago now.
Oh.
So something like that.
Nice. Well, we'll put a link to it, by the way, if anybody wants to check it out, so they can see exactly what Pat is talking about. And then, of course, we always ask everybody, what is the podcast that you are listening to? What's the one or two that, no matter what happens, you're going to make sure that you listen to that podcast when it drops?
That's a good one. I'd say yeah, it's hard to pick one. It's like, you ask people what their favorite song is or favorite movie. It's impossible. So similar with me, I would listen to so many podcasts. But if I were to choose one, maybe a podcast called My First Million. I love it. These two hosts are just super, not just informational, but entertaining. So, they're kind of like a financial, I don't even know how you would categorize it, but they talk about startups, they talk about entrepreneurship, and they're very informational, but I pretty much just listening to them kind of on the background. I think they have like 2 or 3 episodes a week, and they're just entertaining.
Very cool. Well, we'll put a link to that show. We'll also put a link to Fanlist, as we talked about, the product here that Pat is the founder of. And we'll also include a link to Podcast Growth Hacks. And I assume the website that I'm looking at is a Fanlist page for it?
Yeah, if you're looking at the website, that's just a custom website I built, but I do have a Fanlist fan page for it too. Yeah.
All right, well, we'll make sure to put a link to that so that people can check out the product in action and check out your show as well. Pat Cheung, founder of Fanlist, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me.